Hey guys, Brian Schultz here with Cape Falcon Kayak, and once again we are down here in Baja, Mexico, testing out our latest skin-on frame boat design, which is this St. Lawrence River Skiff that you can see here behind me. So we just got down here a couple weeks ago, and we started out on the west side of the peninsula over in Magdalena Bay, where we were fishing in the mangrove estuaries. And now we are over on the other side of the peninsula, just outside of La Paz, where we're going to be fishing along the shoreline. And if conditions are really calm, we might even head offshore, try to pick up some tuna or some yellowtail or something like that. But before we do any of that, and especially because this is a brand new boat for me, we need to do some rescue practice to make sure that if we end up in an unsafe situation, we're going to be able to get back in the boat, get the water out of the boat, and get back to shore safely. So that's the mission for today. Right now, you can see I've got this boat set up behind me. This is pretty bare bones right now. I don't have all my fishing gear or anything else in there, but this is all of my basic safety and rescue gear. Starting at the back here, you can see a brand new feature for this boat. I've got these kayak stabilizers that I bought that I'm using as end flotation. And the reason that I'm using these as opposed to anything else is because they are fairly low profile, which lets me still use all of this surface, but also these can do dual duty as actual outrigger stabilizers if we want to head offshore, and I'll show you how that sets up later. Now, coming forward here, you can see I've got these two large floats that I've shown in previous videos. These are 4 feet long and 8.5 inches in diameter, and this is the minimum amount of side flotation that I feel comfortable with in this sort of boat. Basically, I want any small boat that I'm using to stay floating and stay navigable even if I can't get the water out of it, which is why I have both side flotation and end flotation. Now, the propulsion for this particular boat is this Hobie pedal drive, and I've got this Hobie pedal drive adapter box. Normally, a St. Lawrence River Skiff would be set up with oars, which is how I think most people will build it from our plans. I just prefer this particular propulsion system because it works really well for fishing, and it's a little bit easier on my back injuries. I've also got a couple canoe paddles here as auxiliary propulsion. And I've got a Bexon bilge pump, which is a little short for this boat, but it works fine. And I've got my air pump over here in case I need to top off my flotation chambers on the water. Got a mat in the bottom of the boat just to keep things a little bit cleaner. And then up front here, just got the bow rope, which sometimes I use in rescues as well. I've got this held in with a ball bungee. I'm a big fan of ball bungees and skin boats because it's a really easy way to hold things in place, because we've got all these natural attachment points, but they're not dangerous like if you had things tied in with lanyards, which creates entanglement hazards. Now, very last thing here is we've got two of these bleach bottle bailers right here. And the reason I've got two of them is because anything that's an absolutely essential piece of gear, you need to make sure you've got redundancy. And if we were to get out there without these, we could end up in a difficult situation. Also, when I'm actually out on the water, these make a great place to tuck fishing gear and pliers and everything else. So they do dual purpose that way. Now, I just want to jump in here and mention, guys, that I'm actually filming this intro after we went out and did the rescues. And the only reason I'm telling you that right now is just because when we actually get out there and you see us doing these rescues, the first thing you're going to notice is that we actually forgot those bailers that I just showed you, and then we had to come back to shore. But the good thing is that with all of that side flotation here and here, we were able to get the boat back to shore safely, even though it was partially flooded with water. Now, one last thing I want to mention before we get on the water here is the conditions that we're doing this rescue practice in. Right now, we're camped out on the edge of a fairly large bay behind me. The wind is blowing very lightly towards the back of the bay, and the tide is also coming in right now. And that's important because if this rescue doesn't go as planned, we don't want to get blown out or sucked out to sea. Also, the water temperature right here is about 70 degrees, which is a little bit chilly and honestly still can give you hypothermia, but it's not so cold that I feel the need to go boating with immersion protection on. So anyways, that's the conditions we're going to be practicing in today. I'm going to go ahead and grab Liz. I'm going to get rid of these glasses and we're going to head out and do some rescues.
That was a little early for the capsize.
I don't usually get in that way. I was trying to like have the light be in a certain spot.
Yeah.
Anyways. All right. Pedal drive in.
There we go. Okay.
Rudder down.
All right.
Okay, just bring us offshore a little bit. Bring us out into here just a little more. So without further ado, I'm going to hand this to Liz and she's going to film and I'll just narrate through the process as I do it. So you guys can see with this type of flotation in the boat, and this is why I am a huge fan of side tanks as opposed to just end flotation. As soon as I put the boat on its side, I mean, I didn't even capsize completely and most of the water is already out. So if I hold this like this and kick and push up, that's about 3/4 of the water right there. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and you go around.
Yep.
I'm gonna hop in. Okay, ready?
Yep.
I'm in the driver's seat. And what I want you to do is, why don't you come around to this side?
Okay.
Lunge. Lunge. Kick your feet and lunge. All right. We forgot the bailers. We're idiots. Okay. We're gonna go do an experiment since we've got to do this whole thing again. We're just gonna flood this thing completely and see if it's still navigable. All right, let's get some. Okay, now we're actually sinking. All right, we got water coming through the dry box now, so we're just sinking. Okay, so right now, completely sunk. The boat is, how stable is it? Let's see, let's lean to this side. Do we feel, that feels fairly stable to me.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm about to go over.
Let's go over here. Okay, cool. All right, that was probably even more important than the type of rescue that we did in the beginning, because the reality is with that type of a rescue situation with as much water as we had in there, if we were offshore and there was waves coming into the boat, we would end up in this condition right here. So this is stable, we're still on top of the water and we can still navigate, and that's what matters. So seat. Go, go, go. You gotta work on upper body strength.
Yeah, this is true.
Okay.
And we can move.
this much water in.
Yeah, we can.
But you're right, any waves would be putting more water in right now.
All right, now that we actually have the bailers in the boat, let's go ahead and do this right. Okay, let's go. Super important to maintain contact with the boat at all times, because especially if it's windy and you've got a skin boat that's light, wind can take it from you like that. So I'm gonna turn this up on its side. Got this. You got it. All right, nice work. Okay, so you're sitting in the end that it tips towards, so really most of the bailing is going to be on you. This boat is set up so I can reach the pedals as well as Liz. Both of these seats are equidistant from the pedal point, so if we needed to get out of a dangerous situation right now while she's bailing, as long as she can still pay attention to the rudder, I can actually move the pedals myself. So I'm just going to show you that right now. You see these pedals flip over? I'm driving the boat, Liz still has to steer with the rudder. All right, so while she was bailing the water out of the back there, I was working the pedals, so all she had to do was tap the rudder once in a while to keep us on course. So we were moving towards safety while we were getting the rest of the water out of the boat. And then once you get to the point where there's just a little bit in the bottom here, bailing really isn't very efficient. So what I'm going to do is just take my pump here, and now I'm going to go all the way to the front of the boat to make the water slosh to the front, and I'll just pump out the last little bits of it. And you can see here, this boat is actually quite stable. I'm sitting all the way up at the bow right now, basically just right here. And once again, so I can bring all the water to this little point right here, which makes it a lot easier to pump out.
Fun times.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let's hop out.
No, you gotta pull me in. I want to ride.
Okay, all right, so just a little post-rescue debrief here. How was that for you?
I need to do push-ups.
That's actually a really good point. You know, in 25 years as a kayak instructor, the most common thing that I saw when people were trying to do self-rescues in kayaks where they have to do that same maneuver is either they don't have the upper body strength to push themselves up onto the back deck of their kayak, or they run out of that upper body strength pretty quickly after just 1 or 2 tries. Now, there is ways to work around that. You can set up a stirrup of sorts, and I actually had a provision for that in the boat ready to hang over the side if she wasn't able to do it. You can see right here, she's got this strap right here. The reason I put this here is so she could put her leg in it if she needed to.
What?
Well, you know.
There was an easier way?
Well, I didn't want to...
No, it's good to practice.
Yeah.
It's good to practice, but it's good to have the backup in case you get fatigued, because I remember that about even when I was younger and had more upper body strength, like spending a day snorkeling and then trying to get back in a boat. It wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, and that's also a good point. You know, this was very much an idealized rescue. We were fresh, we were prepared, the boat was completely clean and configured, and you could see that even after just going over one time, the spare paddles were tweaked out of the way. Obviously the drive box fell out, but it was tethered in, so it didn't sink to the bottom of the ocean. If this boat was full of fishing gear and food and all the other stuff we bring with us, it would definitely be a giant cluster. Unfortunately, I'm not willing to simulate that because I'm not willing to dunk $1,000 of fishing gear, but I do know that if that was going to happen, I would basically just sacrifice that stuff, let it sink, let it float away, and focus on our safety first. So overall, you know, I felt like that was a pretty successful rescue. Like,
it went fast.
If you
were able to get that done.
If we were offshore in these conditions, do you feel like you would feel comfortable with this?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't love it, but in these conditions, I think it would be fine. Yes.
Now, as far as water temperature goes, for me personally, that is the coolest water temperature that I would feel comfortable doing that in, just because you can get hypothermia really quickly.
Sure.
You're like, I grew up swimming in Maine. I could do this if there was icebergs floating in it.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to be in, well, this I could be in for a long time. Colder water, I wouldn't want to be in for a long time. And you don't know how long it's going to take when there's other bags of stuff and you're tired and there's more things going on, or if there was waves and we were getting knocked around.
Yeah, exactly.
This went very quickly, but it could very easily have taken a much longer time to get back in the boat.
All right, cool. Well, anyways, that was the rescue. We might actually do another one of these drills, you know, in a few more weeks or so whenever we feel like it. The reason we're doing it right now is because we just got over to the Sea of Cortez side of the Baja Peninsula. Our first couple trips were just in the mangrove estuary, and I wasn't really worried about rescuability in there because we were always 20 feet from mangroves where we could deal with it that way. But over here, you know, I mean, it's not exactly the open Pacific, but conditions can change even when they're not forecast, and you just never know what could possibly happen. I mean, there are big fish out here. We could hook into a sailfish, we could hook into a big tuna. Also, if you're interested in the skin-on-frame boat that you saw in this video or any of our other skin-on-frame watercraft, make sure you check out our website, capefalconkayaks.com, where I have skin-on-frame building video courses, plan sets, and various free skin-on-frame resources. You can also find us on Instagram at Cape Falcon Builds, where we post photos and videos of whatever we're building in the shop or whatever we're testing out in the field. And you can find that same content on the Cape Falcon Kayak Facebook page as well. That's it for now. Take care. Be safe on the water. I will see you next time.
See you guys.